HIV LPFM in New Orleans. We are regional HIV with programming. That's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice, WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. No, we are a mission with a radio station. End all wars. Hello, welcome to COVID Noise Filter, the daily hour-long show that's now every other day. My name is Dr. Mark Derry, infectious diseases physician and epidemiologist here in New Orleans, Louisiana, and sitting across the digital divide is my friend and yours. Say hello, Doc Griggs.
Hello, Doc Griggs.
See, we can't hear you.
Oh, dude.
Today has been a spectacular day of just fails. We're late because hold on. We're late because my computer restarted at 20 minutes to the hour, and it took, I think it updated because it took 15 or 16 minutes. Oh, you can hear him? Oh, whoa. Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe it's a me thing then. Hang on a second. Thank you for letting me know. My computer did restart, so I'm wondering if maybe my sound output is, oh, there we go, built-in speakers, yeah. Not USB, so output is internal speakers. So, hey, Eric, they're saying they can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you, but my computer just restarted. So, hang on a second. There we go. I got you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, there we go. There we go. My computer.
Folks, this is what happens when you spend $1 million on a computer and brag about it.
But you see, my problems, they happen very, very infrequently. Yes, it's a very expensive computer. But my problems
when they happen, they're major problems, dude.
That's true. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I just want, it's richly ironic. It's richly ironic that I am being teased by a guy who has multiple cars, multiple phones, multiple computers, multiple chargers. I have one of your chargers here, by the way. Multiple tablets. And everything is always broken. So it's richly ironic.
What is richly hilarious is the fact that I no longer have multiple cars because one got stolen. And I don't have multiple phones. I don't have multiple phones anymore. And it's richly ironic and hilarious how you're trying to deflect from the fact that you brag on these Macs and they keep breaking down in a major way. Yeah, there we go.
I think what happened,
or is it user interface error where you forget to turn on the speakers? Oh,
that I will say was an issue. Yes, I did not. For some reason, the computer when it restarted itself, I think
folks,
it updated.
This is a monumental day. You heard Dr. Derry really stutter for one of the first times in the history of that. You're supposed to start that with see what had happened was. See what had happened was. There you go.
All right. So it's again richly ironic. This is I want you guys to see that was a master lesson in how to deflect, and then also at the same time add a little confusion to the person you're deflecting to. That was a master class.
But I'm deflecting and holding a master class, but he brings up cars, tablets, chargers, lions, tigers, bears. Oh my!
We may have a guest with us today. Dear and kind folks in the audience, Jose Torres-Tama may be joining us today, which would be super exciting. He's always brings a great breath of fresh air and very funny. Again, I'm very sorry that we are broadcasting late. My computer, I think, updated, may have crashed. I'm not 100% sure. 20 minutes to the show, and it took us a while to get going. And as you guys saw live on air, apparently the speakers were down low. And so I couldn't hear Doc Griggs talk. So hello to all of you guys. Thank you guys. I see all your comments. Thank you all so much for being here. Please continue to talk directly at us. We love to answer questions. Please share and like this as the algorithms, both on the YouTubes and the Facebooks, enjoy that as well. And before we get started, I know Doc Griggs is on the road right now. Doc, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing and any updates COVID-wise?
So actually, yeah, we're doing a lot of updates COVID-wise. Just
And also,
up here meeting.
Friday tradition, by the way. There we go.
Up here, still dealing with COVID. Tried to get away to breathe for a second, but there's some things that happened at home as of yesterday. And yes, I happened to be on air this morning twice. We did it by Zoom. We talked about the new vaccine recommendations and requirements in the city, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit.
Yep.
And the fact that our numbers keep going up. So I won't steal much of our thunder, but I've been up since 2:30 this morning dealing with that and dealing with questions related. It got a lot of people's attention, apparently. So I have a lot of unvaccinated people, believe it or not, that are really reaching out.
Right on. And is that what you spoke about on the news? And what I meant by like COVID updates, I meant like, because I know you're in a place where you're advocating for some COVID policy stuff.
Yeah, so we're still up here doing that, and I guess I'll keep you posted as it further progresses. But we're fighting a good fight on the ground there and here.
And on the news, when you spoke twice, you spoke about something that's definitely in the rundown, which is the use of a third dose for immunocompromised.
No, actually, I was actually talking about the new vaccine requirements for indoor spaces in our city.
Yes, yesterday.
Yesterday. Remember, we didn't do a show on Wednesday, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it.
We did.
I mean, we didn't do a show. We didn't do a show yesterday. On Thursday.
Yes. Yeah. Right. We kind of both. We were feeling it, weren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anyway. All right. So, in the second time you were on air, what did you go on air for?
So we talked about much of the same thing and how people that are vaccinated can stay safe, even though they don't want to be isolated, but don't have the same freedoms that we had if you were vaccinated earlier in this year. We have to really be careful and monitor ourselves and act as though everyone is breathing out virus, which is the case. We have 1,000 times the concentration of virus in the air than we normally would in another situation.
Absolutely. And Doc Riggs, there's a couple of really good comments here. And the first one is, can you address national immunity, but it's really in the setting of the follow-up. Which is, my friend had COVID in February, and she will not get the vaccine because she feels she has natural immunity. You want that one, or do you want me to take it?
I had to deal with that question earlier. Just because you had it in February. In February, the Delta variant was not necessarily present in our country, which means that you probably don't have the antibodies towards the current. She or he probably do not have the current antibodies to fight the current Delta strain. The beauty of getting vaccinated is there's no guesswork. We know that the current vaccines cover specifically the binding protein or the spikes, where things are like putting boxing gloves on the end of the spikes, or like they get clamped down like by the antibodies in our cartoons towards Delta and all of the ones preceding it. So it's best to be sure and specific. Natural immunity helps a lot, but this way you can know that you're protected.
And the other thing, too, that is very clear that we know is that we don't know what kind of antibody response you got when you had COVID in February. You may have had a very large antibody response, or you may have had a very small antibody response. We don't know. The thing that the vaccines do is they give you a standardized dose so that we know that you'll get a standardized response. And then with that standardized response, we know it protects you from severity of illness as well as death. So it's incredibly important to get the vaccine after you had COVID. I don't think natural immunity is going to buy you. You're not going to be able to get into Emeralds with I had COVID earlier. Sorry, that's just not.
And an important thing to note is that the standardized response cannot be dictated. It is not dictated by the symptoms that you have. If you have mild symptoms afterwards or side effects. If you have no side effects, it does not mean that you have lesser protection.
That's right. Right. I mean, if somebody who may have had asymptomatic COVID, but let's say they only found out because they got tested, or they were tested and they ended up not having any symptoms, I would imagine that you probably had a lower antibody response. So whatever the situation is, natural immunity, no, that is not something that we really want to work with. We want to work with people who are vaccinated. And again, if you're trying to get into a club here, if you're trying to get into whatever it may be, you're not going to be able to do it with just saying I have natural immunity. What are you going to do? Show your positive test from like 6 months ago? That nobody it called for vaccines. In fact, we can get into it. In fact, let me call the because I was because Eric was so late getting on, I got a little discombobulated. No, because my computer.
We'll take that.
All right, let's jump in because we got a lot of cool stories to jump into. I know that Jose will be coming in a moment, so let's get ourselves situated. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Oh, wait, so there was one more question here. Sorry, Eric. Let's do this real quick. I can knock this one out real quickly. I got tested on Wednesday, came back negative. I had the sniffles and feel a little achy. What did y'all say Wednesday about the summer cold going around? That's right, summer cold in New Orleans, at least here. RSV is all over the place. We are seeing huge upticks of RSV, that is respiratory syncytial virus. That is something that's typically.
Just a quick question, Mark Allen. Did she get tested with a rapid test or a PCR test?
Well, I think all rapid tests automatically, all negatives default PCR. So
well, that's
even if there was a negative rapid,
we don't know if she when did she get a result? We don't know.
Right.
It was a PCR test. It was PCR.
Yeah. But the bottom line, there is a summer cold. Liana got it twice this summer, one the week right after, and she got tested several times, and she tested negative both times. I got a summer cold as well. All right. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. We have some big news right off the top here. I'm going to just scroll right by Jose's work there. And the big news of the day is vaccine mandates. Dun, 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 dun. Which places will require them and how will they be enforced? New Orleans residents and out-of-towners will now require proof of vaccination to enter restaurants, bars, music venues, and many more places. The new rule goes into effect on Monday, August 16th. Enforcement will go into effect August 23rd. Here's what you need to know. What kind of proof do I need? You can show your vaccine card, the original, a digital photograph of both sides, or photocopy both sides, or you can use the LA wallet, an official vaccine record issued by another state or nation, or WHO will also be accepted. So what's the big story about this now? And I'm sure I don't know if you saw the recent headlines, but the big concern on the public health meeting today was counterfeits. Have you heard about or talked about counterfeits at all?
So, as a matter of fact, I have. As a matter of fact, there was a big bust in Memphis. In Memphis, they've seized over 3,000 counterfeit cards coming from China, actually.
Headed to the
CBD.
Headed to the CBD.
Yeah, headed to New Orleans. Not all 3,000, but and they didn't, but a lot of them. And the deal is they didn't.
I thought it was addressed to the CBD.
No, they addressed to the CBD. They addressed. They definitely addressed. There was a whole article about it, and the FBI. There's like 5 years. It's a felony.
Get busted.
Yeah.
Somebody in the CBD is. I mentioned the CBD because we're broadcasting from this. I'm broadcasting from the CBD right now.
Yeah. So it's a thing. It's more than a thing, and folks, it's a felony, and you can get 5 years in jail for it. It's just not worth it. Like all that trouble, just the shot's free. Why would you pay $20 for a card?
It is a crime. They are taking counterfeits seriously. So please, if you're in Louisiana and you got your shot here in Louisiana, just download LA Wallet. It's free of charge. Put your information in there, and even if you don't want to use, you pay $5. I pay $5 to keep my driver's license on my phone. Now I am basically keyless and walletless because everything I have is on my phone, everything I need.
Yep.
Anyway, so the having my license on my phone is very convenient, but they added a vaccine element to it as well. Now, if you don't want to pay the $5 and put your driver's license on there, that's fine. They still have you in the system, and when you download LA Wallet, it'll show that you've been vaccinated. And Eric, were you about to show me that? Is that what you were doing right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Are,
There
are
it is.
you not? If you go to the bottom, it
LA
says
wallet.
COVID,
LA wallet.
right?
And down at the very bottom, very bottom, folks. Let's see.
Right.
Camera, see at
So,
the very bottom, you can see it says COVID-19. You press COVID-19, and it gives your information.
I don't know if you see there, it says effective date February 3rd. What's your effective date, Doc Riggs?
Yeah, it says, well, this is mine. It says effective date February 3rd.
Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah, go figure, right? We did it at the same time. Go figure, right? But it says, and there's a green. It's green. It says vaccinated, and it also says, just a little foreshadowing potentially, folks. It says export to Common Pass. So don't be surprised. That's what we're moving towards, is showing your vaccination status as a potential passport for you to do things.
Oh, I
Sound familiar?
I didn't see that. What was that? I didn't see that.
It's blue. See at the bottom, it says report to Common Pass.
Oh, export to Common Pass.
Export to Common Pass, yeah.
What is it?
Oh,
Common Pass is going to be, is that that's a passport?
Yeah, it's going to be a thing, it looks like. Yeah, and that just popped up a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and also look at this. This is really interesting. That, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That you can't screenshot. You can't screenshot it either, so you can't just use it. I think that's great.
It says taking a screenshot isn't allowed by the app or your organization.
That is really interesting.
Liz has a great question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. If you have a child who's too young to drive but old enough to get the vaccine, is there a digital option for them to have their vaccine information, or do they have to carry the vaccine cards with them? It's a really good question. We
will find out.
Right. I imagine there's an LA wallet for them. I bet you, I think that if they don't have a driver's license, I think that they may have it, that you may be able to enter Social Security, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, we'll find out, Liz, and we'll let you know. For right now, I mean, I would, it's the card, get it laminated, and take a picture, and blah blah blah. But I'll find out. I'll make sure that we ask around until we find out.
Right. This is an interesting question. How is that COVID-19 was last year? Okay, yeah, so it was 2020. Now Delta these months, and then Lambda out there. Why is this called COVID-19? Because still the original virus was founded in 2019, and these are all variants of it. So that's how that works. And Mignon says that she can't get a state ID. Can't get a state ID. Can't you get a state ID? That's what I'm thinking as well. So going back to Liz's question is the answer of just getting a state ID. That may be an option as well. All right. I always like to tell the story of on February 3rd, which will always make me laugh. I think we've told it here before, but I think it's worth repeating why Doc Riggs and I have the same day, is that Doc Riggs and I both got our second doses on February 3rd. That was exactly 20 days later after our first dose. We did both of them on TV, live on Doc Riggs' segment, 7:30 or 8:30 segment. And what had happened with the second dose, Doc Riggs and I are sitting right next to each other, is that the nurse kind of knelt down, blocked the camera view, and they couldn't see the needle getting into Doc Riggs' arm. And then she came around Doc Riggs' back and then did mine afterwards. And all of a sudden we started hearing our earpieces that there may have been some doubt that Doc Riggs may have been vaccinated. And I just went up to Doc Riggs and I feigned trying to punch him in the arm. And when he went back, I'm like, the man got vaccinated. That's that is the logical response of somebody who just got vaccinated. So
I have some information for Liz specifically. I looked it up. If you're a Louisiana resident, you can apply for an identification card at any age. If you're 17 years or younger, your parent or guardian must be with you when you apply. So there.
All right. Well, that's the information there, and thank you so much, Eric, for doing that. I am trying to send Jose his sign in. I tried to He wants me to email it to him. So if you could just take it for one quick second, Eric.
Okay. So, folks, these are all great questions that will be brought up, and they're kinks that will be worked out. I'm looking at Tamiko's question. There's ways to track, like with all vaccines and medications that are given in a clinic or hospital setting, to track all doses given in case there's a bad batch. If you can remember, there was a nurse, Doc, I forgot where she was, that ended up giving normal saline to someone. Was that in Germany?
It was Germany. It affected thousands of people, had to go and get new vaccines.
Yeah. That's just whack. But
right.
But yeah, it's tracked.
Right. Absolutely. The answer here is yes. You can get the shot in the same arm, no problem. So it's always going to be testing for COVID-19. So okay, so that's a fair question. No, the example I usually give here, if you take a Toyota truck and you buy it off the lot, and let's say you put a new paint on it, it's a different color, and you put new headlights and new bumpers and new rear mirrors, underneath it all you still have a Toyota truck. So the PCR is just looking for that overall COVID-19 genes. It doesn't matter that those variants are all variants from COVID-19. You guys all have great questions. Unbelievable.
Our audience is amazing.
Yeah. Replying to it's 600,000 American wish that they had. Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. So let's go back to this. I think Jose will actually be joining us. Actually, oh no, I thought that was him. Hang on one second. All right. As we go back to this, what kind of proof? What about a negative COVID-19 test? Look how they say specifically, it's got to be a test within 72 hours, but look what they say specifically, Eric. PCR.
It has to be a negative PCR test, and that's what, phew, somebody's validating even more so what we've been saying this whole time about the rapid test. Rapid tests are great. If we will say this, though, Mark Allen, you said this last year, if a rapid test gives you a positive, it's positive.
Right.
Which is why they say if you have a negative test and you still have symptoms, go ahead and get the PCR. If your viral load is enough to give you symptoms, you're probably positive. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, let us bring in Jose Torres-Tama. Been on this show several times before in the past. It's such a pleasure to see you again. Jose, how are you?
I am hanging in there like everybody else, right? Hanging by a thin thread. It's challenging, but not surprising that we have this they're calling it the fourth wave of the COVID thread and the Delta variant. And, I think that gringo culture often thinks this is a sitcom, that it's going to be over in 26 minutes with a couple of commercials by Fauci in between, and people will abandon wearing masks. I've still been very adamant. I wash my hands. I need to survive, not only for me, but for my two boys. So when people ask me, how are you doing? I'm singing the Bee Gees song, Staying Alive.
Right. Are your boys able to get vaccinated?
One of them, he's 14, and I'm waiting for Diego, who turns 12 on September 22nd, for him to get vaccinated. And I've been concerned, right? Because he's back in Plessy and he wants to be back in Plessy. And I totally understand things, but we're in a charged situation, right? We're in uncharted territory, even worse than what we had last time, because we actually have a vaccine. Right. That in itself is amazing. Let's make sure we acknowledge that the warp speed of having that vaccine available to us is amazing. And yet how disgusting is it that we, as one of the powerful nations in the world with such access to vaccine, have to be giving people $100 or putting them in a lottery to win $1 million for them to get vaccinated. While people in India, people in Latin America, in my own country, I was born in Ecuador, in Guayaquil, and last April they suffered unbelievable, serious situations where they had so many dead people that they couldn't even possibly bury them and create coffins out of wood. They made them out of cardboard boxes. And then Guayaquil City had to have mass graves because our people, so many of them, were on the streets. So much commerce takes place in Latin American cultures, like here as well, right, with street vendors and that nature. So how disgusting and how tragic is it that we have this nation with access to many vaccines that are actually what have we heard? We've heard that some of them are no longer worthy of being used because they've been sitting so long, and it's just absolutely disgusting, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, this is something that we talk about all the time. What is your take on? And because I definitely want to hear first your take on why white America is not getting vaccinated, and then help us understand what's happening with the Latino community as well, and what the vaccine hesitation there as well.
I can speak from observe in terms of white America and gringo culture, Nazi job. Let's just call them. I think the RNC, which is Republican National Convention, I think they read to rebrand like the Republican Nazi Conference, right? That's who they really are. I mean, look, they're trying to actually wipe away January 6th from our eyes. We know what we saw. We know that if they were black and brown and native people, those people would have been gunned down. They would have been killed. They would have been called terrorists. That's what we know. And then we know that the Republican Red Nazi Party has been engaged in so much mass media confusion. I mean, think about it. If Nixon had Fox News, he would have been able to walk away free from his incredible, violations against the government. Look at the chump. He's still out there scot-free, right? I mean, come on now. We know we don't have justice we know we don't have proper justice. So white gringo culture that hasn't gotten vaccinated, no, don't give them $100. Give them a fine. Fine their asses. Fine them. Now, black and brown people, we've had such a history of being lied to by this government because, of course, we all know that the United States of amnesia, really black and brown people. We all know that. I mean, that's really, you can't kind of love, right? The kind of love that actually systemically did horrendous things to Puerto Rican people in the 50s, right? That systemically, just recently in ICE COVID jails in Georgia, actually Cameroonian immigrants and other immigrants were sterilized. Oh, we know that the health system in this country is so good for black and brown people. Come on now. I mean, this is where we are, and it pisses me off. So black and brown people, they have a distrust for the system, and they should. And I'm trying to literally get them, like, even when I see the construction workers, come on now, get vaccinated, man. Get vaccinated, if not for you, at least for your families. But there's also distrust within the immigrant community because there's so much distrust in terms of gringo culture. They don't know about what information they're going to have to give. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know whether ICE is lurking around the corner. And ICE, oh my God, I know too much about the brutality that ICE has done in this city and in this state, is continuing to do, the torture that WWNO and the rest of the media and the outlets just covered, because a Cuban immigrant, after being held in detention for 400 and something days, committed suicide about 3 weeks ago in ICE detention. Someone has to die. Yeah, that was here, of course. Come on. We've got ICE jails in Jenna, Pine Prairie, LaSalle, Winchester, Jackson, Mississippi, these little rural towns that have now become dependent on these ICE jails. And, it's disgusting, quite honestly. And WWNO, the local media, they covered this one. Not WWNO, I think they might have done, but the Advocate in the Times, Picayune, NOLA, I forget how they're rebranding themselves, but nonetheless, they had to cover because someone has to die. Look, someone had to die. George Floyd had to die. Had to have near 9 minutes of the knee of white oppression on his neck for major white people to become woke. Come on now, Breonna Taylor. Come on now. I couldn't even look at the tapes of Tamir Rice, 12 years old, when he got killed by a Cleveland policeman who just rode up on him with his little gun, and he had that red thing, and he began shooting. Look at the the Latino young boy with the woman who said she thought it was a taser, and she gunned him down. Come on now.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like that. Come on.
Jose, while we have you, let's just also just kind of.
I get very excited. I'm an excitable.
More of this more of Jose can be found at Teatro Sin Fronteras, the Latin late night live show that will be happening Tuesday, August 17th at Cafe Istanbul. Do you want to quickly talk about this while we have you before we move on?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I know I got on my COVID soapbox, but thank you. So this is something to do because, first of all my national work has been wiped out. It continuously gets wiped out. So I need to do something locally because here we are. We're at Katrina 16 and the Louisiana for Endowment of the Humanities in the tricentennial book disappeared us. So current history books that are coming out by a state arts agency disappeared us. I'm holding them accountable, and it's going to come like a tsunami wave on them because now I've been saying this and I've been connecting with major scholars, but we are disappeared. And here we are, Katrina 16. Our people are giving their blood, labor, and love to rebuild this city. So Teatro Sin Fronteras Latin Late Night Live takes and employs the Latin Late Show, but with a social justice drive, a thematic drive where we also feature great Latin musicians, some of them who are lesser known, some of them who are well known, like Margie Perez, who we featured on our first show on July 20th, which was really a big success. We're about to develop the podcast for it. And then Raíces, an incredible Latin American folkloric music group, husband and wife duo, Roberto Carrillo and Maria Rodriguez, who play everything from Andean music of Chile to the works of Violeta Parra. And Violeta Parra, if you don't know, she's like our Joan Baez of folk music, iconic poet and singer from Chile who was a big part of the student social justice movement. So they perform Andean music in between the different guests. And this week we have Gauchos del Tango, a lesser-known group. You know, I'm connected to my immigrant people, and I know the musicians and the artists, so we're featuring Gauchos del Tango, a husband and wife duo with Yuleni Velasquez, who's an educator, from Venezuela as well, a classical vocalist, and her husband, Michael Wargaman, who used to be part of the Taco Truck Theater Ensemble, whose nickname is La Bestia, because he's a beast on the accordion. He went and he actually studied and did like diaries of small Argentinian towns where he traveled and learned these tango negros. Tango negros are black tangos, and they're going to perform. We feature them, so they open with a song. I do an interview for 7 minutes. They finish with a song. Using that format, I open with a spoken word performance piece, and then Raíces, the band, they open up previously. And every time there's a transition, Raíces performs an Andean musical piece or another Mexican folkloric music piece that's lesser known, because what people know about Latin music, they know salsa, they know merengue, but this is like Mexican and Latin American folk music that is really precious and actually part of the revolutionary student movement, because they're using indigenous instruments for our indigenous people. And the Spanish colonization was so brutal that our indigenous native people were not allowed to play these instruments. Like Roberto's an expert on the charrango. I don't know if you've heard about the charrango, which has like 10, it's a little guitar made with 10 strings, and the back is like an armadillo. Anyway, this kind of work. We also have an amazing dancer, Afro-Puerto Rican Maritza Mercado Narcis, who's like one of the incredible choreographers, lesser known here. I've known her work for many years. She'll be performing a 5-minute dance music piece really blow your mind. You have to try to make it. We're asking people, following the footsteps of DJ Soul Sister, people have to show us vaccination proof. And I'm glad the mayor made it a mandate. That's something I can support. Didn't support her. Yeah. Thank you. I didn't support her odious idea of putting City Hall in Tremé, because that was certainly misinformed from someone who's not really from here. But I support her mask mandate. I support that's
a multi-layered, complicated subject that is let's not address that.
No, I got you. But so we're also featuring someone you may know, Martha Alguera, the amazing leader of Voces Unidas Immigrants' Rights Coalition. So every show features a musician that we highlight. It features Raíces, of course, our house band. And who has an Andean music house band? Come on now, right? And it features an immigrant activist. We featured Homero Lopez, who's the immigrant lawyer with Immigration Legal Advocacy Services, ISLA. And Homero's an amazing individual. He drives 5 to 6 hours to these ICE detention centers to actually represent as a lawyer the asylum seeker immigrants, many of them who have been jailed indefinitely for 400, 500 days in these brutalized jails. So we're going to feature Alta Alguera talking about Voces Unidas, and then we're going to feature also Tania Vidal, who's talking about the actual Latin art show that she's put together. She's a curator putting together a show at the George and Ween Museum of the Jazz and Heritage Foundation right there on Rampart Street.
Got it. That's great.
Guys, I'm gonna have to tap out. I gotta go back to the fight the good fight while I'm up here. Jose, I think you're amazing. We'll catch y'all on another show. I'm in a different time zone, so I'm running late. I'll see y'all next week.
All right, Eric. Well, I'll catch up with you. I'll give you a call. Okay.
All right,
Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Thank you. All right, so just to kind of wrap that up, this show is this Tuesday, August 17th at Cafe Istanbul. Of course, that will be at that point, mass and vaccinated individuals will be required. So we're gonna.
You got to show us proof of vaccination.
What's that?
You got to show us proof of vaccination. That's just the reality.
Yeah. That's to be the reality, and that should be. So just kind of catching up with our show. The other big news of today was, fortunately, French Quarter Fest did the right thing, and they did cancel. Of course, we don't like to see these events being canceled, but we know that it's actually the right thing to do. Because what we are seeing, we're going to see a story in a moment about how Lollapalooza was linked to several hundred cases. So we know that, so that outdoors. And what we're going to see from Sturgis and the Iowa State Fair and the Minnesota State Fairs and all these states that are going to have their state fairs, we're going to see very effective transmission of the virus. But it's going to be particularly keen in Sturgis because I would imagine, I don't know what the number is of people who are unvaccinated there. I would say it's a very high number. I would say 75% maybe. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was higher. And they are also unmasked as well. And so having unvaxxed and unmasked puts you at very, very high risk. So again, it's good news that the French Quarter Fest did come to an end. It has been canceled.
It's tragic, but Jazz Fest just announced. What was really interesting about the Jazz Fest announcements is like literally almost a week before they had announced that the Rolling Stones and Mick Jagger were coming. And then literally like 5 days later, they had to walk it all back that the whole fest is canceled, right? So, but that's the reality. That's what we are, you know?
Right. All right, so let's, it was pretty remarkable. I know that there were lots of musicians that were working really trying to make it so that they could keep Jazz Fest going for all the obvious reasons, even if they weren't playing at Jazz Fest, as you guys know here in New Orleans, that a lot of the musicians are able to make do with the shows that are around Jazz Fest. So all the club read once, or I think I heard once that at any one night in New Orleans, we have 750 live events, or 75 live events happening, live music events happening at any one night in New Orleans. And when Jazz Fest comes to town, it's something like 150. It doubles. So, so we were sad to see that, but I think that, like Jose said, it was the right thing to do. All right, California will be the first state to require all teachers and staff to be vaccinated or undergo weekly testing. That applies to public and private schools. It applies to school volunteers. California's two largest school teachers unions announced their full support of that. So that's super good news. We're going to talk about the FDA's booster shots for immunocompromised in a moment. Your friends who think the vaccine danger, current and future pregnancies aren't going to be like this. The CDC yesterday urged all pregnant women to get the vaccine. Hospitals in various hotspots are seeing disturbing numbers of unvaccinated mothers to be seriously ill with the virus. Expectant women run a higher risk of severe illness and pregnancy complications from the virus, but only 23 have gotten one vaccine dose. So what are we saying here? We're saying here essentially that we know that women, that the vaccine is safe for pregnancy, and that's a big deal, especially since we know that pregnant women are at higher risk for getting severely ill with the virus. So did you hear about that, Jose? That the CDC approved the vaccine for pregnancy?
I am sure that it's needed. I mean, you know, I've seen my own ex-wife go through so much just to finally give birth to our children, and she did it naturally in a heroic manner. But come on, women are, like, of course, I'm sure, and that's important. I want the CDC to get that study so that children under 12, can get vaccinated.
Hopefully that's going to be happening.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully that'll happen very soon.
But you know what? I got to just point out a little comedic bit. A friend, my 14-year-old Darius pointed out. He showed me on his Instagram feed that someone posted, if they put the vaccine into daiquiris, New Orleans will be vaccinated in Louisiana by this Monday. Thing is a civil duty, I mean, put it in some, just put the vaccine in some daiquiris, and we'll be vaccinated immediately.
Right. Just like we have fluoride in the drinking water, right?
Right.
Fluoride in the drinking water helped with cavities significantly. So, all right. So, next story we have here is that research in several states by the Mayo Clinic appears to show Moderna's vaccine is considerably more effective against the Delta variant than Pfizer's. While Moderna's effectiveness was down to 76, Pfizer's was down to 42. The study also found across multiple states, those inoculated were twice as likely to have breakthrough infection compared to Moderna. Now, for all of our audience here that kept writing us and saying that there was breakthrough infections with Pfizer, and I was like, I don't think so. I was wrong. You were right. I'm very, very sorry. It was hard for me. Jose's look is the same as my look. If I had not seen that in a research study, I would not have believed it. But y'all were right that were writing us saying that there was more breakthrough infections with folks that got the Pfizer infection.
Oh my goodness, I got those 2 shots and I'm more vulnerable? Are you saying that, did you give me a percentage of 45-something%? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so the percentage is there. Did you get Pfizer or Moderna?
I got Pfizer, the 2 shots.
Yeah, so Moderna and Pfizer are both 2 shots. So what it's saying here is that the Mayo Clinic is reporting that the efficacy of Moderna was 76% compared to Pfizer's 42%, and that people who got Pfizer were more likely to have a breakthrough infection. So again, remember, this effectiveness is likely referring to infection. I don't know if they're referring to effect. They're saying is it more effective against. So I don't know if they're talking about severity of disease or if they're looking at actual infection. But you can see it's multiple studies. Here is something a little bit close to home. This is something that I reported on one of my shows yesterday. If you wind up in a hospital, you'll need people to take care of you. But in some hot spots, there's now a shortage of nurses. Just one example: one person suffered a heart attack in Louisiana, was bounced around to 6 hospitals before finding an ER to take them. Hospitals are losing nurses to staffing agencies. Hospitals in other states at double or triple the salary, and burnout to the point will never return to nursing. One of the things I have said repeatedly on this show and several of my other platforms as well is that that doctors and nurses and healthcare staff, we're getting tired. We're getting real tired. And this can only go on for a certain amount of time. The healthcare system will crater under what we're seeing right now. That is 100% guaranteed. Okay, if we continue the way we're doing right now, this will be a final straw that will be placed on a proverbial camel's back, and there will be a cratering of the system. Now, I hope it get to that at all. Okay, I hope that it never, because it's going to come with a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. But when that systems get rebuilt, if it does collapse, I just want to just put the plug in that. I hope that it gets rebuilt with a Medicare for All system in its place, because what we do know is there was a study that was done in one of the major universities, and it showed that had there been a single payer system, that would have saved 200,000 people's lives. We heard our death rate, we'll get to the numbers in just a moment, is like 640,000. We'll get to it in a moment, but 200,000 people would have been saved had we been under a Medicare for All healthcare system. Unfortunately, right now, what we are seeing with climate change, where we put politics in front of people, unfortunately, with the healthcare system, we see that we put profits in front of people as well, and I live in a society that advocates for something like that. But we got to continue on. The Department of Health and Human Services is the latest federal agency requiring all employees be vaccinated. So this is news. The big news of yesterday as well, or today, was a Supreme Court judge, Amy Barrett. I think I shouldn't have gone with that. Anyway, she agreed, and they refused. The Supreme Court refused to block a law with respect to Indiana University. So the university can now impose a vaccine mandate on students and faculty. The fact that it went to the Supreme Court and they refused to hear the case means that now it is going to go back down to the lower court, which said that Indiana University can institute a mandate, which means that other universities are going to follow suit as well. So watch for those positive dominoes to fall as well. A vaccine sentiment survey by Verywell shows that 27% vaccinated respondents said they were previously against getting the vaccine. So the important question is, what changed their mind? The top reason chosen by 40% was the risk of COVID overtaking the risk of getting vaccinated. So they just basically needed to warm up to that. As we hear every day, and we know Vermont has the highest vaccination rate in the country. Cases in the state rose 245% in the past 2 weeks, which is, and I will put that in the context in a moment, that's the highest increase in the country over that period. So what is going on? So what we're seeing right now in Vermont, what we are seeing in very highly vaccinated countries like Israel and the UK, the Delta variant will find, those cases will go up. It is such an infectious organism, probably the second most infectious virus known to humans. And what we are seeing, without question, is without question the fact that we are seeing places that have high rates of vaccination. There are still going to be vaccine breakthroughs. There's still, and it's not only vaccine breakthroughs, but it's also finding the people who are unvaccinated. They're the human wood in this massive fire that is the coronavirus epidemic. Jose, any thoughts on that? Or?
Oh my goodness, man. We have to take any glimmer of hope. I really think it's important that universities take that on, because come on, we're seeing, we had this again, we drive on so much disbelief and so much misinformation, right? Look how we're learning how children can be infected, because these are all unknown variants. We're in uncharted territory, right? We're in the Netflix series season 2 called Pandemia, the Delta surge, right? And we're negotiating so many unknowns that we have to keep up these precautions. I was concerned as soon as last June, if you recall, March 16 was the 2020 lockdown. I have it ingrained in my mind because that's when I landed here from Atlanta, and Virginia with the theater department doing a 1-week residency, and then DC for 2 weeks, and other projects got wiped out. So it's ingrained in my mind. But if you recall, by June, they lifted open up, and immediately I saw down the block one of my watering holes, people outside, not socially distant, with masks around their necks, and the actual older woman bartender coming out without us inside. And a friend of mine says, "Oh, have a drink." I said, "No, I said, no, I'm staying alive. I'm not going to do that." And what happened? A surge happened, right? Because we became negligent again. And then the bars had to shut down. And then finally bars had like, you can't come in without a mask, right? And now look at where we are. Not only do we can't come in without a mask, and I'm glad for those. I've been carrying my mask no matter what with the boys. When we go, even when I went to one event and it happened, and I was still wearing a mask, and people were looking at me like I was some kind of crazy person. Now my mask matched my red hat and my red jacket, so I kept it looking cool, right? As I am wont to do because of my sense of style. But let's make sure that we understand that at each point that we neglect these concerns to keep ourselves personally safe and others safe, we are going to go into a deep, dark rabbit hole like where we are now. The fact that you just said that the system is on the verge of breaking and collapsing, heartbreaking. Because I know I've read, I spent last April literally about 48 hours to 72 hours, couldn't even sleep, reading everything I could in Spanish and in English about what happened in Guayaquil City, my city of birth. And it was disastrous. You know, they had to have literally mass graves. You know, I mean, it was Guayaquil City, the same way I was joking, you know, and I have a tendency to sometimes joke. I got the Pfizer vaccine, my second one, on April 6th. Those dates are ingrained in my head, right? I got it, and I texted my friend. I said, "Hey, I just got my second Pfizer dose." He was like, "Yeah, good for you." And I responded, "Yeah, I'm on my way to India now." You know, you know, India at that time, India was surging like crazy, right? Of course. I wasn't going to fly to India, but you know, that's the bizarre nature of humor, right? But nonetheless, we are in some deep, problematic situation. When I hear you say that, it literally breaks my heart because I'm thinking, wow. And I just heard the governor's, you know, speech today with all the health officials talking about where we are, children dying, children getting infected. It's serious, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We are slowly running out, or quickly running out of time. So we're going to skip through the rest of the stories, and we'll just kind of go directly to our numbers. So this is the part where we kind of go over all the epi data. So where are we? We're known, although we know that these are significant undercounts, 206,674,638 global cases with about 4.3 million deaths. Yesterday we logged in 16,256 deaths, about 10,410. So that's about 7 people who died per minute in 24 hours. And you can see we are at the verge. You can see we're here. This is globally peak number 1, peak number 2, peak number 3, peak number 4. And this is likely, maybe it'll surge above alpha. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like it's starting to kind of peter out a little bit. So hopefully it doesn't peak out as much as the alpha variant did. If it doesn't, I would be very, very fascinated to know why. It's likely has to do with more people are probably vaccinated at this point globally. But we still know that in the most poorest parts of the world, so specifically talking about the low income, middle income countries, that less than 1 to 2% of them have been vaccinated. But as you can see that we're about 10% growth over 14 days. And when you look at mortality, which is a lagging indicator, you can see it's still going up as well. We had one of the deadliest days of the pandemic not too long ago, which peaked over 20,000 cases. If you look at who's driving this current epidemic, it is squarely the United States. We are the #1 drivers right now of the global pandemic. So when you see all those cases, we have about, what do we say, 700,000? 100,000 of them are coming from us. When you look at the United States as a hotspot, you can see it is the largest hotspot in any other part of the world when we're looking at just straight up land mass. So we continue not to do well. Our total cases are 37,261,805 with 636,706 deaths. Much love and peace to all those families. Our new cases fell from 100,000 yesterday to 56,343, and deaths 404. I just want you to know that those 404 people who died, those were preventable deaths. I would say maybe 1 or 2 of them probably were vaccinated. So let's just say 400 people chose not to get vaccinated and they died yesterday. And that's a tragedy. When we look at the total number of cases in terms of per 100,000, the US is 37 per 100,000, but Louisiana is #1. We are at 126 cases per 100,000 people. So again, the US in total is 37 per 100,000. We're 126, and look at these other states. Mississippi, Florida, Arkansas, and Alabama lead the country with the highest number of cases. You can see these massive spikes, and of course, what's driving this is that these are states, of course, in the South.
Red states.
They are also states that whose governors do not see science the same way as I do, and that's me just being generous of commentary. I bet you, Jose has some kind words as well. Cases continue to go up at 22%. Deaths are up almost at 20%, and hospitalizations are going way up. This is a huge concern. Our test positivity rate is at 10%, so we're not testing enough as well. And when you when we look at the 7-day case rate per 100,000, it has been going up significantly. We're at 240.8 per 100,000. That's the 7-day case rate. When you look at the U.S., let me see how much time we have left here. Hang on a second. I got 5 minutes, right? So when we look at the numbers and how they're going up significantly, this is what the U.S. is looking like right now. And so I doubt that we're going to peak out like we did here with the wild type variant. But that's largely due to the fact that 50% of America is fully vaccinated, and our 65 and up are 81% vaccinated. So that's going to blunt this peak, but it's still a very, very impressive rise as well, as is the real rapid hospitalizations that we're seeing as well. We're seeing huge rates of increases in hospitalizations, and we're starting to see an uptick in deaths, which is understandable, because if we're going to see more cases, just mathematically speaking, even if the death rate is, let's say, 1%, the more people, the more we have, the more mortality you're going to see. So you see Louisiana.
Oh my goodness.
Louisiana is driving this epidemic. So you can see these are other regions of the country, and Louisiana has its own. Here's Louisiana. So you got here, just so you know, you got the Midwest, you got the West, you got the South, and then you got Louisiana, who's just driving it. And here's the South. So this is what the South looks like, but here's Louisiana. So we're number one in the country for cases, and at one point, if Louisiana were its own country, we would be having number one cases in the world if we were our own country. And in fact, if we were our own country last year, I'm certain the president would have banned anybody from Louisiana. If Americans traveling to Louisiana, or Louisianans coming to the United States, much the way that he banned other folks. So real quickly, just our case rates are up. We're doing about 5,000, 6,000 every day. We had cases just a couple days ago while we were not on air, where we surpassed 20,000. Was it 20,000? No, 15. We surpassed 15,000 cases in one day, which was incredibly tragic. Of course, the whole state's on fire. We are listed as severe, and in Orleans Parish, we're also listed as severe as well. Our case rate is coming down just a little bit. We're just starting to recover just a little bit in Orleans, which is good. Jose, I want to give you the last couple words. We have about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, people just mask up, get vaccinated, take a shot of tequila if you need to, whatever you need to do, but do it for yourself and for your community. And then come out and support us to see Teatro Sin Fronteras on Tuesday, August 17th. Again, we're like the mandate that the mayor has put out, and following the steps of DJ Soul's sister, we will responsibly ask you to show for this event. And it's a late night Latin show that you will experience music, activism, enjoy, and be aware of the Latin people who are contributing to this city.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on Monday. We have to go. Thank you, Jose. You can stay on. Just don't hang up, guys. Thank you guys so much.